Hi, I'm Mark from eReplacementParts.com. In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the motor assembly on your Weed Eater XT10 string trimmer. First, I'll remove the cap from the spool assembly, followed by the button and the string spool. Now I'll remove the 4 screws that attach the cover to the motor housing. And the cover will just slide away from the motor housing. The motor housing is secured with a series of screws. I'll go ahead and remove those. With the screws removed, now I can go ahead and split the 2 sides of the housing. The motor and spool assembly will simply lift away from the housing. There are 2 wires from the wiring harness attached to the motor. I'll go ahead and remove those. Now I'll remove the drive gear assembly. The drive gear assembly is held to the motor shaft with a captive nut. To remove it, I need to secure the motor shaft on the end of the motor opposite from the drive gear assembly. Now I'll turn the spool and drive gear assembly until it unthreads from the motor shaft. Like that. The upper portion of the spool is just simply pressed onto the motor shaft, and you can remove it by just simply pulling it apart. Now I'll press the upper part of the spool back onto the motor shaft. I'll replace the spring, the washer, and the drive gear assembly. Again, I'll secure the motor shaft with a pair of pliers and screw the drive gear assembly onto the motor shaft, again by turning this entire spool assembly. Now I'll attach the 2 wires from the wiring harness back to the motor. And I'll place the motor assembly into the housing. Now I'll reassemble the motor housing. Before I put the 2 halves of the housing together, I want to make sure that all of the wires are tucked out of the way so they don't get pinched. Once everything is clear, I'll reattach the other side of the housing and fasten it with the screws. Now I'll slide the cover back onto the motor housing and secure it with the screws. Now I'll install the spool. The spool goes in with the riding towards you. Then I'll place the button on the spool and install the cap. And now you see that you can replace the motor assembly in your Weed Eater XT10 string trimmer. If you found this video helpful, please feel free to leave a comment or ask us a question.